Rain lashed against the office window, blurring the city lights into an impressionist painting of betrayal. Detective Mercer ran a hand through his hair, the weight of the case pressing down like a physical burden. He stared at the evidence scattered across his desk: surveillance photos, financial records, and confidential police reports. Each piece pointed to a conspiracy so deep, so insidious, it threatened to unravel the very fabric of the department. Mercer picked up a photo, the grainy image showing his captain, a man he'd always respected, sharing a drink with a known criminal. It was like watching his world tilt on its axis. The lines between right and wrong, once clear and defined, were now blurred, lost in a haze of deceit. His gut churned with a potent cocktail of anger, confusion, and a chilling sense of betrayal. His gaze fell on a file marked "Confidential." It contained a name: Edward Sinclair, a high-profile lawyer known for his unwavering morals and pristine reputation. Mercer had crossed paths with Sinclair on several occasions, always finding him to be a staunch ally of justice. But why was Sinclair's name entangled in this web of corruption? Driven by a sliver of hope and a mountain of doubt, Mercer decided to pay Sinclair a visit. The lawyer's office was the epitome of order and success: polished mahogany, plush carpets, and an air of quiet confidence. Sinclair greeted him with a firm handshake and a knowing look, as if he had been expecting Mercer's arrival.
Detective Mercer, I believe you're looking for answers. Answers I might be able to provide.
Sinclair led him to a hidden safe behind a framed law degree. Inside lay a thick dossier marked Pandora's Box. It contained explosive evidence, names, dates, and detailed accounts of illegal activities that implicated some of the most powerful figures in the city, including high-ranking officials within the police department.
This dossier is the result of years of investigation. I knew I couldn't trust anyone within the force. That's why I contacted you, Detective. You have a reputation for integrity.
The dossier mentioned a name: Jenna, a young hacker with a Robin Hood complex. She was Sinclair's inside source, feeding him information from deep within the city's digital underbelly. Mercer knew finding Jenna was crucial. She was the key to exposing the truth, the missing link in a chain of corruption that extended far beyond what he could have ever imagined. Following a trail of digital breadcrumbs and encrypted messages, Miller tracked Jenna to a dingy internet cafe downtown. She was a wisp of a girl, all sharp angles and wary eyes, but behind her guarded exterior, Mercer sensed a fierce intelligence and a deep-seated desire for justice.
Sinclair sent you? He shouldn't have. They're watching him, watching everything.
Jenna revealed a chilling truth. There was an informant within the police department, a mole feeding information back to the conspiracy. This mole was the reason Sinclair had remained in the shadows, the reason he had entrusted Mercer with the dossier. The ultimate betrayal. Mercer stared at the list of names Jenna had compiled, his blood turning to ice. Each name was another blow, another shard of his reality shattering into a million pieces. And then he saw it, a name that sent a wave of nausea crashing over him. John Riley, his mentor, his friend, his confidant within the force. The name hit him like a physical blow. Riley, the man who had taken him under his wing, the man he had trusted implicitly, was the informant. The betrayal cut deep, leaving him reeling in a state of disbelief. Confrontation and denial. Mercer had to confront Riley. He arranged a meeting, choosing a secluded diner away from prying eyes. He watched as Riley approached, his gait familiar, his smile the same as always. But to Mercer, he now seemed like a stranger, his face a mask hiding a devastating truth.
"John, we need to talk," Mercer said, his voice betraying none of the turmoil raging within him.
He laid out the evidence, watching as Riley's casual demeanor slowly crumbled. Denial twisted into anger, then morphed into a desperate plea for understanding.
"They threatened my family," Michael, Riley choked out, his voice raw with despair. "I had no choice."
But for Mercer, there was no justification, no excuse for betrayal. He walked away, the weight of Riley's confession heavy on his shoulders. Living under surveillance. The realization hit Mercer like a ton of bricks. If Riley was compromised, then he was too. He noticed the subtle signs, cars parked for too long across the street from his apartment. Fleeting shadows that seemed to disappear whenever he turned around. They were watching him, monitoring his every move, Fear, cold and calculating, crept into his life. Every phone call, every meeting, every text message felt like a gamble. He was living on borrowed time, trapped in a game of cat and mouse where the stakes were higher than ever before. Going underground. Mercer knew he couldn't fight this alone. He needed to disappear, to operate outside the reach of the watchful eyes that followed his every move. He contacted Jenna, the young hacker, and arranged a meeting at a secluded warehouse.
I need to vanish, Mercer told her, his voice firm despite the tremor in his chest. I need to disappear completely.
Jenna, resourceful and ever defiant, had a plan. With a few keystrokes and lines of code, she could erase his digital footprint, make him a ghost in the system. He would have to abandon his life, his identity, everything he held dear. But it was a small price to pay for the chance to expose the truth, to bring down the corrupt network that had infiltrated the very heart of his city. As he walked away from his old life, disappearing into the anonymity of the bustling metropolis, a steely resolve settled over Mercer. He was no longer just a detective pursuing a case. He was a man fighting for his life, for justice, for the soul of his city, and he would not rest until the shadows of deceit were brought to light. To be continued. Subscribe for Chapter 3.